There's Pepper on live chat. There we go. Good morning. I'm not feeling great today, unfortunately. So this one will be a little bit of a shorter episode. Going to try to finish before 12, but we'll see. I mean, I guess if you're not in Central Standard Time, then we are going to try to finish up in an hour and a half. But, you know, that's not important today. What is important is what we are covering. Oh, wrong screen. There we go. Is what we are covering. Um, basically, we're going to. This will be our first full-on nutrition episode. We're going to look at what Terry Crews eats through his day. That will be a little bit of a shorter video, and we will also be looking at what Alexander Skarsgård ate for the Northman. I forgot to plug up my headphones, so we're going to go ahead and plug those in, and we will get started shortly. But there's a little bit of housekeeping we need to do. So, as many of you probably have noticed, I have forgotten to update all the thumbnails. So, I need to go back and update all my thumbnails because I like this new format. It's more visually pleasing. Obviously, this is not the end of the evolution of it, but this is a good step in that direction. But yeah, that's happening. Actually, and we are also. That was a whole. That was a whole thing. My bad. But I'm working on another article for the blog. If you're interested in that, um, it's not very long. I've just been, like I said, I'm having a hard time right now, but I am making my way through it. It's in the editing phase. And finally, there is a video that popped up called Why You Should Not Play Video Games by Natural Hypertrophy. And I am working on a response to that. I think it's honestly probably one of the worst videos he's made, although I haven't seen all of his videos. But he basically he angles it as I've had video game addiction. Here are reasons why you shouldn't play it. But that's like what it's angled as. But if you actually watch the video, he says these are the downsides of playing video games when many of them are not true. Many of them are very circumstantial. A lot of them are offensive to many video game players. It's it's almost like he took his idea of playing video games in like the 90s or 80s and applied them to why you shouldn't play them now. It's like a 2-hour video. I'm not sure if we're going to take it on in these podcasts, take it by chapters, or I'm going to make an actual response video. But I am taking notes. I'm going through it. I've seen it once, well, mostly through. I can't sit through it. I cannot sit through the whole video all at once simply because it's a slog. Many things are extremely subjective. Like he says, if you play, actually no. He said if let me get this right because I don't want to screw this up. He said if you play video games every day after work, you have an addiction. When he doesn't apply that to anything else, like books or TV or anything like that. Which you can argue watching TV is worse for you than playing video games in a lot of regards. Due to for many reasons, such as like your hands are on a controller, so it's harder to eat while playing video games. While TV, hands off, you could just fill your mouth full of like shit. So it's definitely a video I am very interested in covering. Whether I do or not, it's a whole nother discussion. Well, I guess I will cover it in some way. I don't know if I'm going to cover it in the show or like in actual videos. I'm thinking about an actual like long form video. It might be several hours So if you're afraid of the long man, that might not be the video for you, but it'll be very loose format, like pretty much just like a podcast, but pre-recorded for that entire thing with a scripted intro, probably a scripted outro, but mostly just looking at his video point for point and responding to it. Maybe having some gameplay in between, like when I'm talking, to create differentiation. That was a hard word. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into the videos. I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping real quick. So anyway, we are going to start off with the Terry Crews video. Let's switch that to that screen. All right. You know how we do. We talk about the channel, things like that. So this is on men's health. We have all these links. So if you want to go there, a little description. There's chapters, which is always nice. I really appreciate chapters. Comments, everything like that. But yeah, men's health. We're going to give this a watch and a discussion Rooney. And we'll see how it goes. Let's go ahead and start. Oh, we got to unmute it because I was testing the two videos. I always do that.
Pasta, meatballs, ham.
I've never actually seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is interesting. I've never heard bad things about it, but I haven't watched it yet, so I think it might be worth giving it a watch in the near future.
Yogurt.
Oh, a lot of yogurt.
I love yogurt. Hi, my name is Terry Crews, and I'm going to take you through a day of my diet, basically. For the last...
Okay, so I've seen this video before. It's been a couple weeks, but I have seen it. So I believe, if I remember correctly, he does intermittent fasting, which is basically just like you're going to fast for a certain percentage of the day. I do this. A lot of people do this. I personally like it, but it's not for everyone. What I do is basically from when I wake up, which is usually around 9:45 to 10, to about 4, I don't eat. I'll have water, I'll drink coffee, and I like sweet coffee, so whatever. But I won't eat anything. And then from 4 to about 11, I'll go ahead and eat. Now that's pretty, a lot of people have much stricter intermittent fasting periods. They might have a 4-hour window. They can have an 8-hour window. It all depends on what you can manage. I have a few clients who do intermittent fasting, but there are other clients that approach it differently. So,
last 8 years now, I have been intermittent fasting. So when I wake up, the first thing I do is have a glass of water. But I also have a shaker cup, kind of like this, and I put amino acid powder.
Okay, so this is a little bit weird. Let's talk about amino acid powders. A lot of them are ripoff. What are amino acids? They are the building blocks of proteins. Basically, I think there are 20 amino acids. Don't quote me on this because I have to look it up. I'm never great with the numbers. I'm really good with concepts. But about, I think 13 are non-essential, meaning your body will create them to a certain degree. And then you have 9 essential ones, which you get from food. Now, obviously, you get all of them from food, but the essential ones are the ones you have to get in. A big problem with vegan diets is that you very rarely get complete proteins. So if you are vegan, you need to eat more protein than if you're just, anything else, because you are getting less complete proteins. Is this bad? Not necessarily, but you just have to have more to make up for that. But yeah, amino powder acids is extremely silly. Like, just of course, he's in his fasting thing, so I suppose it might serve more of a purpose, but a lot of them are not worth the money.
Inside, I like to call it stardust. Okay, I drink that all morning and afternoon, and then I'm off to the races.
Look at that. He didn't go low enough. Granted, he is tall. If I remember correctly, Terry Crews is a tall individual, so getting all the way down is kind of rough. But he even has his heels elevated. So, there's not really an excuse unless he just has really bad knee pain. And in that case, that just sucks. But he should be getting a little bit lower in his squats. But this is a nutrition show, so we're going to move on from that.
Around 10, I have an espresso. Usually it's with nothing in it but coconut oil. More fat.
Ugh. Hate coconut oil.
Really, really good for you.
So here's an interesting thing about fats. So if you want to know what is a healthy fat, pretty much, is it a liquid at room temperature? If it's a liquid at room temperature, it's usually a bit healthier. However, fats are a really easy way to add a lot of calories. So some people will be like, I have a healthy diet. Why am I gaining weight? And oftentimes, you're adding too much oil to your foods. It's calm down on the oil, because fats have 9 calories per gram. So oils will add a lot of calories, and you don't need a whole bunch. But if you're not cautious with how much you're adding to, your foods, it can easily skyrocket your calories, and then you're confused why you're gaining weight. Obviously, if you're intentionally gaining weight, that's fine. But not everyone's doing that. A lot of people want to stay in a lot of people want to maintain or lose weight. So healthy does not always mean low calorie. And low calorie does not always mean healthy. Although a lot of things that are low calorie aren't really bad for you.
Big proponent of healthy fat. Because I've been intermittent fasting, my body tends to burn fat instead of sugar.
Okay. Let's explain why this concept is not accurate. So, when you are intermittent fasting, your body doesn't exactly say, "Oh, there are no carbs. Sugar is a carb, and most carbs are sugars. It just depends how available they are at any given moment." Because if you eat sugar pretty much absorbs very quickly, while if you eat bread, it takes a little bit longer. So you get a longer fuel source from it. But anyway, your body will always use carbs first for energy, because digestion starts in the mouth, and they're very easy so they are broken down in the mouth and absorbed in the smaller intestine. Okay? So, broken down and absorbed. Fats are the last thing the body uses for energy. The reason why is because fats are pretty much just absorbed. Right? There's not a ton of breaking down. So when they get to lower, there is some. That's what the gallbladder is for. It adds bile, helps break down fats to be absorbed. But that's not absorbed until the lower intestine. That's not digested until the lower intestine. So what you run into is it is broken down and absorbed in the lower intestine. Well, on the way there. Not exactly how I'm putting it. I am simplifying it quite a bit. So you might be thinking, well, what about your fat deposits, like your adipose tissue, like your belly fat or whatever? That's like your savings account. And when do you dip into your savings account? You don't dip into it when you're not like spending anything. You dip into it when you need it. For example, okay? Just think of it like this. Say what he's saying is technically true. Like, oh, my body's burning fat while I'm fasting. What's going to happen if you eat your maintenance calories? Well, you burned a little bit of fat, but now you have no amount of calories. Your body's just going to replace that because why waste energy? So even if that was true, it doesn't really matter. Besides, your body will always burn carbs before fat. It'll always burn carbs before protein. So what he's presenting here isn't actually true. I think he might be confusing this with a keto diet, where because of the lack of carbs, your body will use fat as fuel. However, if you do go on a keto diet and you remain on a keto diet for a very long time, there are obvious downsides. One of which is your body will become less efficient at using carbs for energy. Doesn't mean it can't, but it'll become less efficient at it. So, if you were to switch, this is why keto's not great for athletes, because carbs are your main resource. But, so what might be more helpful if you're an athlete and you want to do keto is to, instead of doing it for months on end, maybe do it for like a few days a week, add some carbs a few days a week, and kind of repeat the cycle so you never become carb resistant, you might say. Glucose resistant. Because it's not hard to switch back and forth, but it does take a few days, so you can't just switch on a dime. From my understanding. I could be a little bit off on that, but from my understanding.
I love eggs. Egg dishes are the best. An egg frittata, scrambled eggs, bacon.
Eggs are pretty good. They're very OP.
And a really, really fresh salad. I love that. It's kind of like a little bit of breakfast, a little bit of lunch. It's like a brunch. You know what I mean? Or if I
Sorry, I was checking something on my phone.
can't have that, I'll have a charcuterie board. And the charcuterie board comes with all the salamis and cheeses and all that stuff. I love the fermentation.
So, yeah, this is pretty interesting. Lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of nuts. But yeah, this seems like a pretty normal meal. Well, not normal, right? I don't think I would approach a meal like this, but it is interesting.
Of pickles and some Marconi almonds, but also with.
So if you've noticed, he has a lot of fats in his diet, a ton of them. So he's definitely leaning more towards a mostly keto diet, but he does, if you wait to the end, he does have some carbs in there. It's more of a low carb diet than a true keto diet.
With the cheese, it really satisfies you. Like, I feel super satiated. Like you just had a big dessert, And then I go for a while with no food. About 5 o'clock, I'll have a protein shake. And remember, all this stuff, I do all my work.
Okay, so real quick criticism. He should have touched his chest. I'm assuming it's some mobility issues, but his range of motion was fine. Like, he was like a couple inches away. This is pretty good weight. Pretty good form. He's just tall and has long limbs, so this might be a little bit harder for him than someone who's a bit shorter and has shorter limbs.
Workouts in the morning, so I usually work out fasted. But I have my protein later on in the day, so it really fills me up. It makes me feel really, after the lunch that
I don't know a lot of protein shakes that are very filling unless you put like a lot of fiber in there. Now, the obvious benefit of protein is that it is more filling than a lot of carbs. Not fibrous carbs like fruits and vegetables, but a lot of carbs, protein is more satiating. That being said, I don't know if that would apply to a shake since it doesn't come with a lot of the other. It's basically like broken down protein to be a little easier to absorb. So, I don't know.
I just had, and the whole thing kind of warms my body up for the dinner that I'm about to have. So, usually between 7 and 8, I have a delicious meal, which is not ketogenic.
Okay, so we didn't explain this earlier, but yeah. So, essentially, he is intermittent fasting with keto. But his keto is only like the first 2 meals of. Let me check. Yeah, so so throughout the day, okay, see this as the time he's awake. Basically, throughout this whole period, he's keto. And then in the end, he's not. So I think this is a pretty good way to approach keto. Low carbs, not cutting out carbs, which at that point, you're pretty much almost at carnivore, but he does have like vegetables. So he's very low carb for the majority of the day. And then he's just flexible dieting at the end.
I'll have my bread, I can have some.
I actually think this is a pretty good way to approach keto. If you're going to mix it with intermittent fasting anyway. But even if you're doing regular keto, like probably your first 2 meals of the day are keto, and then your dinner is just normal flexible dieting. You know, you get plenty of carbs, and then those carbs, in theory, should carry you through the night and all the way to the next day. That's the idea, I would assume. Because these aren't like sugar. Because sugar is fast absorbing. Like, a sugary soda is a really easy way to add a lot of calories, which isn't great because it's just sugar. But there are benefits, such as, let's say you're working out and you have a sugary drink. Because sugar is pretty much sugar, it's already starts absorbing in the mouth. So it's very quickly absorbed, so you can use that energy very quickly. Instead of like breads that take a little bit longer to break down and get access to. So that's why you have your difference between simple carbs, which are very fast absorbing and really good for quick energy, and complex carbs, which take a little bit longer to break down and are better for longer term energy. So if you have so what a lot of people do with their athletes is they will have, before like a competition, whether it's a meet or a game or whatever, they will pretty much load up on pasta, breads, whatever, right? We always had spaghetti and salad. So you load up on that. And then you go into the game. Theoretically, this should take you through the whole game. But at halftime, you get maybe like some more sugary things like Gatorade or candy. And this is more of a quick energy. So at halftime, you're usually pretty beat up. You're like, oh, I'm dying. Ugh. Or like halfway through your marathon. And you get some Gatorade or some candy or something sugary. And essentially, you are just, bam. Okay? You get some quick energy, and that will take you pretty much through until your other carbs start, kicking in again. And hopefully you can finish your meet or competition with enough energy. That's the idea anyway.
Pasta. A great dinner for me would be bison ribeyes,
Oh, he's got that fancy stuff, bison.
sweet potatoes, and broccoli.
Yep, fiber. These are fiber rich. Not a lot of people get enough fiber. Fiber is very important, and there is a direct correlation between fiber consumption and lowering the risk of cancer. I think almost all cancers. Now, someone in a different stream told me that all fiber does is help you poop better, which is wrong because I looked it up. You have two kinds of fibers. You have soluble fiber and you have insoluble fiber. Insoluble is the type you cannot absorb, but it helps with cleaning out your intestines and help food be broken down better. And it slows down food since it cannot be absorbed and broken down. Essentially, it slows down food through your small and large intestine. And what this does is it allows more of the nutrients to be absorbed and adds some more water there because your large intestine pretty much handles water. So it absorbs water and it adds water. If you don't have enough fiber, that's usually when you have diarrhea or constipation. If you have too much fiber, that's usually where you also have constipation or diarrhea. Both can happen. Basically, it's a fiber. It's a fiber regulation thing. But too much, I think, diarrhea is more common, and too little constipation is more common. But the opposite can happen at either end. It's just more common this or that.
Usually like grilled broccoli or broccoli.
Oh, I forgot to explain soluble. So soluble fiber, what that does, that is absorbed. And it helps clean out excess cholesterol in your arteries. So, you always see those things where it's like, oh, cholesterol is clogging up your arteries and you're going to die or whatever. But if you have a good bit of the fiber, what can happen is that it helps clean that out. Excuse me. My bad. So it helps clean that out. So you are helping your arterial health when you have more fiber. So keep that in mind.
Rob on the grill, I love that. Oh, I'm happy. I'm satisfied. I'm a big dessert guy.
Nothing wrong with dessert. Dessert's fine.
A big cake guy, but love cheesecake. They have some really.
This gets brought up on another stream I watch often. Cheesecake is a pie, although it's called cake. Curious how that happened. Well, I guess you can see the similarities with cake, but it is a pie due to the crust. Cake doesn't usually have a crust.
Good ketogenic cheesecakes. You make them with almond flour, you can't tell the difference. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Again, he's back on keto, so it's keto most of the day, but dinner. Dinner is normal carb-filled dinner.
And then I'm off to bed. Let's talk cheat days. I used to have an all-day cheat day back when I was in my big lifting thing, and
Look at it. I didn't know he played football until I watched this video. That's pretty neat. And he has turf cleats. That's like old school stuff. Now there's no difference between dirt and, well, there is a difference, right? If you're on like dirt fields, the spikes on the cleats are much bigger, and like turf cleats are still smaller, but you can pretty much use them interchangeably.
It didn't work. Instead of having a whole cheat day, it's more of a cheat meal. Saturday night, it's pizza, it's burgers, it's fries. We're talking pizza
Hold on.
pie. We're talking.
That's pretty good. Look at that. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good.
Apple pie a la mode, all that stuff. It's probably as decadent as I can make it so that I don't feel like I'm missing anything. And then you can eat really, really good the rest of the week without feeling like...
So this is an interesting topic that I highly encourage. Reward yourself for a good week. I know Greg Doucette's like, oh, exercise and healthy food, that is the reward. But no, I think that is the work, because a lot of times Exercise is tough. I'm peaking a little bit. My bad. I am so sorry. Let me adjust that a little bit. Yeah, so I shouldn't be peaking anymore. Okay. Exercise can be tough for a lot of people. Even I love exercise. But man, sometimes it's a lot. Okay? Sometimes you're not feeling motivated. Sometimes, you're not feeling it. Same thing with diet. Some days you're not feeling your diet. While other days you're totally into it. A nice reward at the end of the week in the form of food is absolutely fine. And he's narrowed it down to just a cheat meal. Flexible dieting is another one. You just do it every day, but it's a very small thing. Maybe you have like a couple of cookies at night or whatever. I'm saying or whatever too much. I need to adjust that. Okay, so I'm going to do my best not to do that anymore. Anyway, so what I really like about this is that he's rewarding himself for eating really well. Because just because you make a good diet doesn't mean you don't want cookies or like cake or whatever when at times that you have designated not to. But if you reward yourself, like, I don't know, Saturday night, in his example, you have a little extra motivation to get to the end of the week and like stay consistent with your diet. So I really like this idea. It's not something I've fully incorporated, but it's an idea I really enjoy.
Like you're missing, something. You want to try that cronut? Hey, the cronut's happening on Saturday night, so you don't miss it. So that's how my cheat day works out. Hey, I'm Terry Cruz, and this is what I eat.
Okay, this is basically the end of the video. Pretty good stuff. He has his workout stuff, but I don't really care about that today. We're sticking to nutrition, and we're keeping it kind of short. So that is one video. 30 minutes in, we're doing really, really well. Again, this is Men's Health. Here's all the stuff they have. Last time I read comments, we're going to skip that today. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next video, which is everything Alexander Skarsgård ate to build muscle, the Northman. I have a couple issues with that, but the actual issues are within the video. This is by Magnus Method. We covered him last week. I don't think I'm going to cover him this week because I don't want him to think that I'm just using his videos for views. I really liked the Northman, and I'm curious what he did to achieve things with Alexander. That's pretty much it. So Magnus, you make pretty awesome videos. You're probably, out of all the celebrity trainers I've seen, you are not the worst. You're probably one of the better ones. A lot of the other ones, I cannot stand the shit that comes out of the mouth. So if you do end up watching this, I really like your stuff so far. And honestly, I recommend people check out your stuff as well. Okay, let's give it a look.
Hi everyone, I'm Magnus. Welcome back to my channel. This week I got a really good video for you. We're going to talk about what Alexander Skarsgård ate to become Amleth in the North.
Okay, so actually, since he is saying this, big disclaimer. Okay? Just because you eat the same things a celebrity does not mean you'll get the same effect. The reason being is that you are not that celebrity. You have different genetics. You have different body composition. Even your muscle composition is probably different. So just because you eat like them doesn't mean you'll have the same results as them. Just because you work out like someone does not mean you will have the same results. The idea here, at least for this video, is to use this as a jumping off board do talk about nutrition. However, the actual video, if you're going to watch it and use this, it's more like inspiration. Okay? I'm going to eat healthier because he ate healthier and look where he got. I wonder where I can get if I ate healthier type idea. So, don't take this as this is what you should do. This is what they did.
Northman. If you've seen a poster, the trailer, or even the movie, you can tell that Alex worked his tail off to look like a Viking. There's a lot that goes into looking like that. It's not only the training part. I'm going to talk about the training as well in another video. So if you go on my channel.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and pause. But he did talk about the training last week. We covered that. Pretty good stuff.
You're going to see that I have videos about Alex's training as well. But today we're going to talk about nutrition, which is a huge part of a transformation like this. People always ask me, Magnus, how much is training? How much is nutrition?
I don't get this question that much, but this is a concept that people say. A lot of people say 80-20, so 80 for nutrition, 20 for training. But I like what he actually has to say about this.
Is it a 50-50? Is it a 60-40? The truth of the matter is that you need to get on top of both. It's 100%, 100%. Cannot.
Yeah, so I actually really like this. It's not so much, hey, I need to have my diet great and my training can be subpar. No. Your diet needs to be fantastic and your training needs to be fantastic. Because you can't outwork a shitty diet. And shitty training with a great diet is going to lead to suboptimal results. So if you can get on top of both, you'll be much, much better.
Not out-train a poor diet. If you don't eat properly, you're not going to look the part. There's no way. If you want to know more about the training and nutrition for Northman, I have something for you. You might.
I think this is a clip of his last video. So we're going to. Oh, wait. No, this is his personal ad. I will let it play because I like him. And I wanted to promote his stuff. But if you are looking for training, hire me. Don't hire him. Hire me because I'm better.
I know that I have a training app with all my superhero programs. But did you also know that I have a nutrition guide? The guiding.
Okay. I don't have a nutrition guide. I coach diets, but I don't have a great nutrition guide. I need to work on that. That is something he has definitely outclassed me on.
Includes healthy tips, grocery shopping lists, and daily eating plans. For as low as 27 cents a day, you can get access to all of this, including all of my training programs.
But again, like I said earlier, just because you train like him does not mean, remember this, does not mean you will have the same results. Just because you train like him, just because you eat like him, does not mean you will have the same results. In fact, 9 times out of 10 you won't. So keep that in mind. This is more inspirational than directly get the same results.
First of all, when making a movie like this, it's a long process. You prep for 3 to 6 months and then you film for another 5-6 months. So you have to understand there's many.
He also has training stuff. I went over it last week. If you want me to break that down, go check out last week. It's pretty good. I like his training method a lot more than I like other celebrity trainers. Other celebrity trainers' methods.
Many different phases that you have to go through when working on a project like this. You have the build up or the bulk up phase, then you have a cutting phase, then you have the maintenance phase, and you.
Yeah, so sorry, a lot of times I talk from my upper respiratory system, when if you want your voice deeper, you need to talk from your lower respiratory system. I'm going to work on that too. So I'm going to try to do that. Anyway, he is correct. Usually, if you want the best results, well, okay, let me correct myself. If you want the quickest results, you go through phases: bulking, cutting, maintenance. From bulking to cutting, a lot of people will dirty bulk. That's a terrible way because now you have to cut a lot harder and a lot longer. If you do a clean bulk, like a very clean, kind of strict one where you get enough protein and all you're doing is increasing your carbs by about 250 calories. Carbs are protein saving, so by increasing your carbs, you're allowing for more protein to be available for muscle synthesis and reducing protein degradation, stuff like that. And obviously you need the right amount of fats because fats are important for a lot of your hormones and other chemical processes that happen within the body. So you need enough protein, enough fats, and then you play with the amount of carbs you have. If you want to bulk, increase. If you want to cut, you decrease. Pretty simple. And obviously you kind of have to, adjust. I would say start off by increasing or decreasing by 250. If you're not seeing results within 2 to 3 weeks, then increase or decrease another 250 until you start seeing some change. Wherever you stop seeing change, that is your new maintenance, and you work from there. Obviously, if you get too low, you shouldn't go under 1,500 calories. If you get to 1,500, then you just need to add more exercise rather than playing with your food. Obviously, training does affect all of this, so don't be too quick to change how many calories you are consuming.
You're going to train and eat differently in all of those three phases. So the build up or bulk up phase is where you try to put on as much muscle mass as possible and you don't really care about the body fat. You actually want to make...
You care about a little bit. You do care about a little bit. Now, you don't want to, how do you say, if you increase too much, then you're going to build too much fat and you're going to have to cut way more. But if you increase a little bit, then you might add a little, less body fat, which will make it easier to cut later. So while you don't care as much, you still care about how much you add in total.
Make sure that you are not lowering your body fat too much during that process. You see, you don't want to be in calorie deficit when putting on maximum amounts of muscle mass.
Absolutely true. You're not going to gain muscle in a calorie deficit. Well, yeah, you're not going to gain muscle in a calorie deficit.
And then we have the cutting phase, which is where you're trying to get rid of all that body fat while keeping as much muscle mass as possible. The reason that you have those two phases is that it's a more optimal way of building strength and mass and getting shredded. With that said,
that is true. It's more optimal because you can focus on one and then focus on the other. Excuse me. There is a concept called Gaintaining, which is basically you're doing both at the same time. However, here's a big issue with that. Both processes happen much slower. Now you might think, oh, well, the time will equal out, right? So why change? A, it'll get boring, and B, it does not equal out. It's seriously a much slower process. So I would recommend against it unless you're just trying to make a small change. Like you're in maintenance calories anyway, and you're like, I'm going to cut down a little bit on my weight, but I'm not dedicating any time to it. In that case, it's fine.
Many times when I work on projects like this, we don't have that time. That means that we are trying to put on lean mass while getting shredded. So that's doable as well. but you got to be much more precise with your nutrition and training, and it's not as optimal.
Just like he said.
Wanted to clarify that. Then we have the maintenance phase. You see, once you've gone through the bulk and the cutting and you look the part and you start to film, that's when you need to make sure to keep all that muscle mass on, keep the body fat low while filming. And that's
maintenance, just as the words would say or mean, you want to basically keep where you're at. You don't want to change up, you don't want to change down, you want to keep where you are. So basically you want your diet to be consistent. You don't want to change it, you want to remain consistent. You want your training to remain pretty consistent, so you don't change much at all.
For 5-6 months, and that's the tricky part. I would say that the maintenance phase is probably the hardest one, because you have an actor who's on set every day, working extremely hard, doing something physical, not enough sleep, and you got to monitor all the time, trying to make sure that he eats enough food, not too much.
I could definitely see how this would be particularly hard for an actor or actress. Athletes, you have your dietitians and your nutritionists and your trainers, and you are required to get a certain amount of sleep. An actor, the people on set do not care if you get enough sleep or enough to eat. They want you to do your work. So if you don't get enough sleep, you don't get enough stuff to eat, it's not their problem. So I can definitely see how that's a lot tougher for them.
Much, not too little, but just the right amount to look the part. If you got a poor diet, the risk of injuries are so high that it will most likely happen at some point. You got to make sure that you have.
Now you're probably wondering what he means by this. Why would a poor diet lead to injury? Poor energy. Anyone who's done anything physical knows when you start running low on energy, you start getting sloppy. Sloppy technique usually leads to injury. Another one, improperly fueled musculature. So if your muscles are not fueled enough, they're a lot easier to tear. If they're not hydrated enough, they're a lot easier to tear. We can keep building on that. So, there's a lot of factors to why a good diet is so important for preventing injury.
Have an optimal diet for what you're doing. You can imagine what a disaster it would be if Alex would be on set working and he gets injured. Production needs to shut down, millions of dollars out the window, and I'm gonna look really bad.
Yeah, you do not want that. If he gets an actor injured because he wasn't doing his job properly, because in this business, I found with my limited time in it, sorry I peeked again, there are a couple things that are always important. Number one is how you look. I hate to say it, but a lot of people get off. I'm peeking a little bit too much. I'm getting a little excited. 1 second. Let me turn it down a tiny bit. Okay. People will listen to you if you look the part, right? If you're some ripped, shredded dude, they'll listen to you. Doesn't matter if you know what you're talking about in the slightest, they will listen to you. Same thing if you're a super hot chick. If you're a super hot chick and you have this big old curvy booty and you have small waist, other women will listen to you even though everything you say is bullshit. Okay, we saw that with Holly Dolk. Looks are number one, if you want general audience. Number two is reputation. If you're a really good trainer, you get people results, they will talk about you. If you're a crap trainer, they will also talk about you. So, if you're really good at what you do, people will talk about you, word of mouth will get around, and that will be great. If you're bad, Same thing happens, but in the opposite direction. Oh, they're really bad at this. And I can imagine in this, like the celebrity training world, it's even harsher because you are getting passed around from celebrity to celebrity. And this is a lot of money being passed around. The interesting thing is I think most celebrity trainers are kind of shit. But they probably still get results because if you work hard enough, you can get results on any program, on many diets. You just need to know enough to get them to work hard enough. Magnus seems to know what he's talking about and get people results. So that's why I like him. I don't agree with everything he says, but he seems to be one of the better ones in the celebrity fitness training realm. Josh Wolf, listening to him talk is silly. Like, I do not enjoy listening to him talk at all. I don't think he knows what the fuck he's talking about in like 9 out of 10 circumstances. But eventually we will cover some of his stuff so I can shit on him properly. Anyway, let's continue.
So I really pay attention to what my actors eat while on set. With that said, let's talk about what Alex ate during the build-up stage to prepare for the Northman. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm not big on calories. I don't love to talk about calories. I prefer to talk about macros, which...
I'm going to turn down the video quality slightly. I'm getting a little bit of encoding errors. But yeah, so macros are just another way to look at calories. Okay? But he will explain that in a second, so I'll let him explain and then I'll add on to it.
Macronutrients, which is protein, fat, and carbs. But I'm going to explain why it is important to know a little bit about both, and there's a relationship between them. You see, if I'm on a 3,500 calorie diet, I can technically get those 3,500 calories from donuts, or I can eat high quality foods like...
There we go. Okay. So in the grand scheme of things, calories are just a unit of energy. Okay? So you can eat whatever you want in this direction and whatever you want in this direction. However, while a calorie is a calorie, not all sources of calories are the same. So, donut, what is it? It's carbs. You have some complex carbs, but it's mostly simple carbs like sugar. What's the problem with the donut? One, it's not very filling, right? So you eat a donut, delicious. You have your whole diet of donuts. Now you're still very hungry. You're more tempted to eat again. So now it's going to be very hard to stick with that 3,500 range. If you eat whole foods that are really, filling, full of fiber, protein, fats, etc., that's going to be far more beneficial because not only are you getting the calories you need, you're getting nutrients like micronutrients you need. You're getting the benefit of those different sources. Different macronutrients have different, what's the word? I think it's, oh man, the word's slipping me right now. It's not thermogenesis necessarily. Essentially, it takes energy to digest food. Obviously. If you have, I think protein's like anywhere from 20 to 30, thermic effect of food. That's the word. So it takes anywhere from 20 to 30% of the calories from protein to digest protein. It takes anywhere from 2 to 3% of the calories from carbs to digest carbs. And it takes 0.1 to 0.3% of the calories from fats to digest fats. Okay? So you also have that to consider. Filling foods, if you're full, you're less likely to, eat more than you have to. or you should. Eat more than you should. So, in these regards, depending on how you eat, how you balance that out, you will get results in different ways. So, while a calorie is a calorie, not all sources from calories are the same. Oops.
Salmon, chicken, rice, potatoes, and vegetables. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that there's a huge difference between donuts and chicken. So let's talk about macronutrients: protein, fat, and carbs. Protein are the building blocks of muscle and tissue.
Correct. He is absolutely correct here. Protein is used to build up a lot of your body, especially the tissues.
It's crucial to eat protein, or enough protein, to build muscle and also to recover. Fat.
So enough is about, for your average person, it's about 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Now that 1 is a bit high, but you're okay if you're at 1 gram per body weight. 0.8 is a little bit better, but more protein is not going to be detrimental unless you don't have healthy kidneys. In that case, you want to probably stick to 0.8.
Fat and carbs are both fuel for the body. And as you know, there's so many different diets.
That's a little bit oversimplified, because fats are not only fuel, but they also help with different hormones within the body.
Out there. But at the end of the day, both fat and carbs are fuel for the body. Some people like to eat more fat than carbs, other people the other way around. But when you really break it down, they're both fuel for the body. So
Absolutely correct again. But carbs are more available than fats, I guess. Technically, they absorb faster. That's pretty much it.
So I really like to eat a combination of both, because they're both good for us. During the build-up phase, Alex ate around 3,700 calories.
That is a lot of calories. You don't get how much calories that is. That's almost double a normal person's diet. Well, that's double what you should be. That is almost double than what you should be eating. A lot of people's diets are about that, but not for the right reasons.
Calories per day or more. We had him at 200 grams of protein, around
Let's say that's 4 calories per gram of protein, and we're going to assume he weighed about 200 pounds, maybe a little bit more. That's 800 calories from protein.
450 grams of carbs.
Multiply that by 4. Well, let's see. 45 times 2 is 90. 90 times 2 is 180. So 1,800 calories from carbs.
And about 150 grams.
So we're going to multiply that by 9, which is a little bit harder. So what we do is we essentially multiply it by 10 and then subtract 150. So about 1,500 from fat. And then subtract 150. That is about it's like 950-ish. No, wait, no. It is 1450. Wait, no, it'll be 1350. 1350 calories from fat. There you go. Because fat's 9 calories per gram.
Grams of fat. With that said, though, some days he ate a little more fat than carbs, and vice versa. But the total amount of fuel was about the same every day. He ate this spread out amongst 5 different meals: breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner.
This seems easy to do, but it's not. It's easy if you're eating shit, right? I always say there's nothing wrong with sugar, and there isn't. But obviously, a lot of very sugary foods don't come with a lot of stuff. They're not very filling, right? It's very easy to eat a ho-ho, okay? It's not as easy to eat a chicken sandwich for a snack and then lunch, and then a different, like a steak kebab for a snack, and then dinner. So it's actually really hard to eat a lot in a healthier context.
Our go-to protein sources were everything from lamb, beef, to
That was a weird cut. I guess he had a brain fart.
fish and other seafood, chicken, eggs, mostly. Our carb sources would consist from everything from pasta, potatoes, rice, quinoa, barley, or farro, and even some
He didn't include vegetables. A lot of people don't know. Vegetables and fruit are carbs. They don't seem like carbs because you always think of bread as carbs, bread and sugars, but fruit and vegetables are carbs. They're lower, well, okay, fruits have a lot of sugar in them, but it's usually good sugar, and it comes with a lot of other good stuff, like fiber and vitamins. So if you get a lot of fruit in, you're probably not overeating sugar, in all honesty. As far as vegetables go, they're very low in calories, but they're very fibrous, so, and have a lot of vitamins and nutrients. So that's their main benefit. But yeah, he didn't mention fruits and vegetables, although he obviously like includes that in there. He just didn't include that in that particular list.
some Vasa crisp bread and some thin crisp, which are great slow carbs without any.
So when he's gonna say without sugar, when he says slow carbs, what he means are complex carbs. Complex carbs, I've explained this earlier, take longer to digest. Right? They start digestion in the mouth, but they finish in the stomach. Sugary things pretty much start and end in the mouth. Like they are digested, and a good bit of it's absorbed already. The stomach mostly handles protein, but it does handle a little bit of everything else as well. Complex carbs take a lot longer to digest and finish throughout the body. That is why they're really good to have before a long athletic event, because you'll be using it as fuel during that whole period. Sugars and stuff, they're quick energy. You get the energy from it and then it's gone. So they're good for a pick-me-up, like many energy drinks are, but they're not good for sustained energy.
Sugar. Most of our fat sources would come from fish oil, avocado, olive oil, or nuts. On a typical day of the build-up phase, Alex would eat a big omelet in the morning.
That looks... He's saying omelet. This is not an omelet, but this looks really good. Like, I would eat this. You got some asparagus, you got some fish, you got a soft-boiled egg, and spinach. Looks pretty good. I approve.
Morning, 4 or 5 eggs, maybe some potatoes, avocado.
I don't know what this white stuff is. Someone tell me what this is. I don't know what it is. But there's spinach, there's fish, there's avocado, there's all these seeds. I don't know what this white stuff is though.
Avocado, whole lot of vegetables. 3 hours after breakfast, Alex would have a snack. A typical lunch could consist of...
Let's see. Well, it's not moving it out. Let's see if we can go back. Okay. So there's chicken. There's some beans. There's stuff that looks like puke. I don't know if I'd eat this one. It probably tastes better than it looks.
Chicken, maybe some
Oh, here we go. Just chicken salad.
chickpeas, a vegetable
Oh my god, you're going so fast. I don't feel like going back again.
blend.
Okay. Avocado, spinach, chicken. I think that's mostly chicken.
And some slow carbs like
Okay, we got some beans. We got some onions. We got... I don't think this is chicken. This is a different meat than chicken. This is not chicken.
quinoa. 3 hours after that, another snack. And 3 hours after that snack, it was time for dinner. And dinner would be similar to lunch. A typical dinner would be a ribeye steak.
Oh man, that looks good as shit. Look at that. That's some good steak. Got some parsley. Got some cucumbers and tomatoes. I don't even like cucumbers and tomatoes, but this whole thing put together, that looks pretty good.
A ribeye steak with some potatoes.
Let's go. Some seeds on the steak. I don't like that, but whatever. tomato, a vegetable thingamabob, and some chickpeas, I think. Those are either chickpeas or lima beans, which are pretty good. Everyone who eats lima beans are wrong.
Potatoes and asparagus, broccoli.
Some long pieces of broccoli with some steak. Still pretty good though. I like it.
And vegetables. So that's a typical day of what Alex would eat to prepare for the Northman. I should also mention that when Alex was working out, we made sure to time one of these meals right after. So he would go from training into eating within an hour after. If you go by science, you don't need to eat right after a workout.
Exactly. Yes, he's going to mention the protein window or the anabolic window. It's kind of a myth. There's small benefit to it, but it's not necessary. It's more about how much protein you get throughout the day than specific timing.
There is what we call a protein window. You might get away with eating before a workout, but that's a whole different topic, and I will not go into depth on that here. Eating healthy doesn't have to be boring. Eating this much food is not that easy.
It's not easy at all. When I did powerlifting, I think I was about, what was I at? Somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 calories. Now, I also did like training because I thought I was going to play college football. That didn't happen, but I did that training anyway. And I did powerlifting. I burned a lot of calories. And during that whole period, I pretty much hated eating. Like I ate so much that it stopped being fun. So yeah, you know, you might see some fat guy on the internet and be like, oh my god, he eats a lot. And he probably eats a lot of crap. He probably doesn't eat a lot of like good whole foods. Because eating a lot of good whole foods is hard. One of these days we might look at a strongman diet just to show you how difficult it probably is to eat a lot of food.
Let me tell you, I personally would struggle to eat this much food. I know that Alex loved it though. The guy loves to eat, what can I say? He didn't love the cutting phase as much.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who loves the cutting phase because it's always miserable. You cut down on a lot of food, not a lot of food, but if it's whole food, it's going to feel like a significant amount of food. And you're going to be hungry most of the day. And anyone who's been hungry most of the day knows it's not a good feeling. Anyway, this video is making me hungry, so let's go ahead and wrap it up.
There you have it. Now you know what Alex ate to build mass for the Northman. I am going to make videos of what Alex ate to get shredded as well. We are going to talk about what he ate to stay in shape while filming, but that's a different video. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and I will see you next time.
Okay, that's the video. Those are the videos. I think that was pretty good. Actually, let me show that again. Go to the Magnus Method. I would say subscribe. He seems pretty solid. Like I said, I don't agree with everything he says. Who does? But his information is really good. If you don't want to hire me as your coach, which I think you should, he's probably a really good trainer. I support this guy. So I think his stuff's great. Check out his channel. Yep. There we go. Pause that. Oh yeah, that's his most popular video. 800,000 views. Almost 900,000. Pretty good. Anyway. So these are his uploads. Health. Okay. Maybe not all of his videos are great. But for the most part, I really like him. So, you know, pretty good stuff. I would recommend checking his channel out. Even if you don't get everything great from him, he will probably set you on a pretty good path. And then you can learn from there. So, with that said, that is our coverage for the day. I think this was pretty good. Again, I am working on either a video or a mini series on natural hypertrophy's video gaming video because I really don't like it. It pushes a lot of stereotypes that are not necessarily great. And as a, buff nerd myself, I don't appreciate that at all. But yeah, we will definitely cover that, whether it's in a dedicated video or in a short stream series. We will get to that. But yeah, this was a nutrition episode. I figure we've covered training a lot, so this one, we're looking at nutrition. Anyway, that's all I got. I have a lot of stuff going on lately. Maybe some stuff that will make this a little bit easier to do. But yeah, I have a lot of work today. I gotta go support my pal Metal with Metal's Forge. So go check him out. He should be on in about 20 minutes after this. If you're watching this later, well, he's obviously not on because it's a stream. But yeah, that's all I got for you today. Short episode, but I got a lot of stuff to do. I'm not feeling great. It's going to be a long day for me. But I hope you have a fantastic day and a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time. Later. I still don't